renew, reconnect, live, laugh, in love, connections, dream, getaway experiences. Brave Heart Workshops, unique getaways live with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show, renew, restore, and reconnect in community, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Eric Yusko from Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, we're really excited that you took the time out of your busy day to join us, and I'd love the audience to learn a little bit about you. So I'm going to read your bio. Eric founded Man of Class podcast and is the exceptional life strategist for men who know there's a lot more to life than just the everyday grind. After spending 10 years in the aerospace industry connecting people all over the globe, he realized there was a major gap in our society where men were still living like their fathers and grandfathers before them in a world that no longer tolerated that kind of behavior. He believes that there's a better way for men to not only live a life of the daily grind, but a life that is worthy of being defined as exceptional, and in doing so, believes it will set examples for men to become the next generation of great men. So what an amazing journey you've had from aerospace to working with men. I guess, not to sound sexist, but I guess probably when you were in the aerospace industry, probably it was predominantly men back at those times. It's probably evolved to a lot of women now. But so take us on your journey, if you wouldn't mind, Eric, so that the audience knows, share with us, how did you end up in aerospace? And then how did you trajectory into this new branch of work?
Kind of like a ping pong ball, to be honest. So I grew up on a farm, very northeastern part of Ohio, and I was always interested in how things worked and would always tinker with things, pull them apart. Sadly, my father would have to put them back together, but I would always tear them apart. And it was through that I would just learn. And so I was just so curious about how things worked. And it was through that really kind of led into working on cars and motorcycles. And then mom and dad had said, well, you could actually be an engineer. If you love tinkering, why not go into engineering? And so I took my journey to Akron, where I got my undergrad and then later my master's in engineering, and kind of stumbled into the aerospace industry. It was funny. I was talking to the co-op counselor at the time, and she's like, please take this call. Get into the aerospace industry. It's booming. There's so much opportunity. I was like, but I love cars. And so it was funny. I did a summer co-op, and the next thing I knew, I just fell in love with the industry and really loved even more so of that whole connection of people around the world, especially as, generationally, we start thinking of people that lived in one town. And then as we got, different generations, more and more kids started moving away farther and farther and going to school and out of state or out of country. And so flight and aerospace really was that connection piece that helped to keep everybody connected, bring families home for the holidays, taking them to go see new places, vacations, etc. And all throughout this journey, I was always helping people. People would always come to me with relationship advice. Eric, hey, I'm going through this tough time. What do you think about this? I need some help here. Eric, I used to be super productive. Now I'm just, I just blah, help me. I don't know why I'm just so blah. And we'd help work through whatever that might be. And people always used to say, oh, Eric, you'd be a great coach. You should be a coach. And that was before coaching really kind of had taken off in the industry. And I would always say yeah, of course, thank you, but I'm just going to keep kind of doing what I'm going to do.
So when you worked in aerospace, Eric, then was your job in the aerospace industry a lot of connecting with others? Is that what your job, that you got this, where you had this intuitiveness of connection? So how did that develop from aerospace, in the aerospace industry?
It's interesting. So, and I'm an engineer by trade. And so engineers are usually very logical and very analytical driven.
Yeah.
And every time I tell people I'm an engineer, everyone's like, really? Like, are you sure about that? Just because I've had such of that human connection. I always seek to understand. I always try, I trust my intuition. I'm not sort of that traditional mold engineer. And it was through the problem solving, which was like that analytical piece of the brain, but really that human connection of working with teams. I found leadership has just really spoke to me, because really effective leaders have been able to really transform the world. When you think of whether it was the titans of industry in the corporate world, or whether it's the startups that are starting today, whether it's the tech companies, politicians that are really trying to make, the world a better place, it all takes leadership. It all takes connection. And it was through really that sort of understanding in the aerospace, as I was starting to lead different teams that were in Cincinnati, teams that were, in Cincinnati, but, across the whole globe, really bringing people together and trying to solve the world's hardest problems.
So fine-tuning leadership skills through exceptional training in the aerospace kind of brought this into fruition of being passionate about leading.
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to bring the two together with aerospace. So I am a mastermind, definitely a mastermind connector. So I'm one of those who connects the dots. Okay, so I look at the dots and go, okay, let's see where that pattern went. So it's these exceptional leadership classes that you were blessed with in aerospace, and then being able to lead teams. And as you led them, you saw how people were connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And really the transformation that could be done with a great team, pulling a group of people together and really motivating them and pulling out their strengths. It's one of the best things as a leader can do, is to not just say, there's the goal, go for it. It's helping to pull out those skills, whether the people are aware of them or not, to really help bring the best to the table so that you can get to that end goal line quicker and easier.
I love, I had the privilege of being at a conference when Jack Walsh from GE was there. And I love his story of how he developed GE into the master company it was. And his I don't know if have you ever read Jack Walsh's book?
Mm-hmm. Straight from the Gut, I think, is the one that I read. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the one. The one that stuck out for me is how he said he always had the 10-80-10 rule. And the top 10% of the leaders, he kept moving up in the corporation. And the top 10 of, I'd say, the most underproductive, he'd fire each year, but as a gift to them, because he said they weren't flourishing. And he says, this isn't the industry for you. This isn't the job. I need to let you go so that you can flourish. And as he continued that, he always had top 10 moving up. Those 80% were flourishing, in the top 10 he let go so that they could go thrive somewhere else. And I love that philosophy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for leaders today, is where they see somebody that may not be performing as well, is looking at it and going, it's not that they themselves are bad at this position. It's that there's something missing in that motivational piece, whether it's the passion for the work, the collaboration with the team, there's something missing. And that same person that may not be great in supply chain would be perfect over in, let's say, engineering, or perfect over in sales and marketing, but they're just not, their skill set isn't shining as well as it could be in a different position in the company or in a different industry.
And I love how you began your story sharing about how your parents saw and connected your tinkering part of your personality to see how they led you in a direction, helped you to lead yourself in a direction by watching and observing, where a lot of parents sometimes miss that, and then the children miss their strengths and weaknesses. And I remember a story from years and years ago about a child who was failing miserably in school. And the teachers, just kept sending reports on this kid can't read, and he's just can't do anything right. And the psychiatrist said to the parents, well, is there anything your child is passionate about? And the mother said, he loves motorcycles. He's passionate about motorcycles. So the psychiatrist, and he's well known, Dr. James Dobson, who's been, around for years, told the mother, well, take him to the library and get him every single book on motorcycles. So the mother did, and he just could read like a genius. because he got into the books that fascinated him. And I think the story ends that he became Harley Davidson, and I think that's Harley Davidson's story. The owner of Harley, his mother saw his passion for motorcycles, and your parents saw the passion you had for tinkering and, led you down that path. So now take us. You're in leadership, you're leading these amazing teams in the aerospace industry, and people are coming to you for manly advice. And so what was your next step then? What took place next?
It's really interesting. I was on the phone with a buddy. He had gone through a really difficult time in his life, and he had reached out, and we had conversations. And it wasn't until one night when I hung up the phone that my wife turned to me and she said, "You'd be a really good coach." And all the previous voices throughout my past came right front and center and was like, God, the universe, somebody is trying to tell you something, Eric, like it's time to listen. And also knowing that my wife has told me many things and she's turned out to be right. So it was like, when she says something, I really need to take a second look at it. And it was through that then I started realizing this is something that I do very well, right? Everyone talks about the gifts that they were given, whether it's effective communication, whether it's leadership, whether it's technical, whether it's interpersonal, all these gifts that come easy to people. And that was something that really came easy to me. And so then I started thinking, going, okay, what are some of as a coach, if I start thinking of myself as a coach, what are some of the biggest problems that I see going on in society today? And women have done a remarkable job. The whole movement of empowered women empower women. It's fascinating. But on the men's side, we're still trying to figure out what it takes to be a real man. So men are still trying to figure out what's the definition of it versus actually empowering each other and really showing each other, that support that's needed in order for them to grow, to say, it's okay if you want to be, if this is the life goal that you want to go after, that's all fine. We empower you, right? We can help build a mastermind, whatever that it might be. Whether, not everybody has to go follow the same path. And so that's really what led me down into saying, I can really help men find a better way. Because a lot of times, grandfathers then taught their sons, okay, what it took. And it was a very different time. But then something weird happened where our previous generation looked at their sons in this generation and they said, don't do what I did. I wasn't there, emotionally for your mother. Don't be like that. I took my job so seriously that I missed you growing up. Don't be like that. And so they told us all the things not to go be, but they didn't really give us a great example of what to be. And so then this generation is sitting there going all around, I shouldn't be this, but what should I be, right? I don't want to make the same mistakes that maybe my previous generation or maybe 2 generations back had gone through, but I don't know what to go do because there's no rule book, there's no help, so we a lot of times just kind of flounder our way through. And it was really through that connection of realization that's been happening, because these same conversations that I was having with different men in my life, different friends from whether it was high school or college or just within the local area, similar patterns were starting to emerge. And I started realizing those patterns, along with coaching, can really help bring a unique perspective and a gift to a lot of men.
Well, and then trying to get alongside of men who are willing to go deeper is the challenge, I think.
Absolutely.
That are willing to go forward and even admit, I'm stumbling and falling right now. I need help. And,
right.
Men are not known traditionally to say, I need help. Women will say, I need help. But,
yes.
but men generally will not. So to be able to have an intuitive and wise friend or someone to come alongside of you to say, I'm noticing A, B, and C. Are you willing to go in and not nosedive into this and see if there's a better way? And being able to say it in such a way that it doesn't intimidate the guy or have him running or thinking that you're judging them.
Right.
So that's a mastermind class in itself, isn't it, Eric?
Absolutely. Because then the defense mechanism comes around, right? And then it's like, now I need to be even more closed off, right? Because again, I don't know much, but I know men are supposed to just kind of just deal with things, man up. I'm just going to deal with whatever situation. And we oftentimes see how that plays out. There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of depression. All these things will transpire. What you resist persists. And so if you don't face head on into that, it can lead down to a pretty treacherous path.
Well, and the difficulty thing I see with men that I've been around too is men are fixers. They want to fix, and they want to make sure the people around them feel secure in that fixing. And so when a man then feels they need to fix, they then, if there's an issue in their own life that they may have to step back and say, oh, I have issues, they may, of course, that shame sets in and that feeling like they're not adequate. But the first thing that I see then that occurs is they want to fix it immediately and be done. Like, I got to fix this. I need a plan, and I got to get it done right now. Like, how long is this going to take?
I need a plan, point A, point B. I chart it out, I get it done, right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I'm fixed.
Yep. And life just doesn't work that way. Life just does not work that way. So
no matter how much you will it to be.
It's like, I got to fix this. So take us to now. Your wonderful wife sees these great attributes in you of being an amazing coach. And so how then do you go to your steady, comfortable, secure paying aerospace job to say, I'm going to launch off on my own and stay healthy as a coach and not freak out that our lives are going to be completely in a whirlwind?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing, because one of the fears, right, that everyone has is, well, if I walk away or I do something different, then my whole past will just like erase, right? I can no longer go back and do all those things. When in reality, we always have so many choices, right? I'm always a big fan of, if somebody is great today, they'll be great tomorrow. They have that potential inside of them. If they're great problem solvers, if they're a great leader, if they're whatever that it is inside of them, they can always go back to that. Mm-hmm. And so that, coupled with, I know that there's more that we can go do if we just challenge ourselves. And so you're right, when you look at the safe, secure, that type of thing, and kind of settling into that industry and just saying, I'm just going to ride this out versus I'm going to branch out on my own. I look at it as there's so many opportunities today. Mm-hmm. The technology, the communication, right? The mere fact that we can have a Zoom call where we're just, seeing each other on video, hearing each other where we're, hundreds of miles apart, but that we can still make it work. There's mm-hmm. so much that technology has opened us up to that allows people to, whether they start something on the side, whether they, completely abandon something and they go all in. There's so many different ways that people can go and pursue their careers or their happiness or their joys, that it really starts to reduce that fear of, I'm going to go from one to the other and that's it. Instead of like a binary type model, It's I can start to branch out. I can start to really build out a life that has multiple different incomes or multiple different strategies, that makes it less scary when you think of like going just one or the other.
So even as a man, though, that had that security, I guess what I'm asking for you to be transparent and authentic, how did you go through that process of trusting the process for yourself? Because again, men wanting to be great leaders, men wanting to be the caretakers of women and the head of the household and the provider, financial provider. So there had to be a transition in your own personal life, authentic personal life, to get you to that place to say, wow, this is going to be a new journey, and take us down that path. Because, I can't envision, and I'm not trying to deny, that you just flipped a switch one day and says, I can do this.
You're right. It was much harder than that.
Yes.
And it really, the pinnacle piece for me, that switch came around the trusting within myself. When I think back into whether it was times that I struggled throughout high school, the times that I struggled throughout undergrad, the different struggles where I felt life crumbling around me, and I felt like maybe I didn't have that choice, I was able to get through it, right? You can build on those strengths of the times that were the toughest for you. And so very similarly in here, I looked at it and said, I can look at this as just a way of going into the unknown and having so much of that fear. But at the end of the day, that fear, your brain will constantly think through all of the what if scenarios. And how often have we ever, gone outside and heard a noise and we're like, oh my gosh, like that could be a coyote, that could be a raccoon, it could be a wild bear. And all of a sudden it's just a rabbit. And we laugh to ourselves, right? But we build it up of like, oh my God, the zombie apocalypse is happening. And so in a similar way, that's exactly what I was doing, where it was all the what if scenarios. Oh, it's going to crash and burn. Oh, I'm not going to be able to be successful. Oh, I'm going to be a failure. I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. All those different things. But then the weird thing started to happen where I said, but what would it look like to just take one small step? Oh, okay. Well, just like the bunny, I kind of laughed about it and went, well, this was easy, right? It's not as scary as what I thought it was. What if I took another step? And instead of like focusing on the macro, I started focusing really narrow on the micro of like, what's some small step? Okay, I can create an LLC. And that's not going to, the whole world isn't going to shatter down around me. Okay, I can do that, right? And I set up an LLC. Okay, I can set up a website. I can do that. And it was just these little small steps over and over again. And what's funny about the human brain is the more that you have consistency, the more that your subconscious will take over and it'll just feel natural. And so something that was so foreign and so scary that we built it up and we're like, there's no way I could ever go and do this. All of a sudden started to be a little easier, every single small step. And it started to become, more and more clear, right? That foggy haze out there started to become a little bit more clear. And it was like, I can do this, right? And so it was a slow switch, but it was, you're right. In the beginning, it was, oh my gosh, this is like, am I making the worst life decision I could ever have been in? And then the smaller micro steps that I started building, the more I started looking at it and go, there's a lot of opportunities. I started to trust more in myself. And I think that was another pivotal thing where instead of worrying about all the things that could go wrong, I started thinking maybe things could go right. And then all of a sudden it was like you started to build some positive momentum there. And then it became easier and easier. And so it's just through like those little decisions where it was like, could I do this small, simple thing? Yes. Okay, I can do this simple thing. And so it just made it easier every single step of walking that through of the process of actually starting a business, in the scary world of the unknown, when you had something that was just standalone in, stable, secure, that type of thing.
Well, I like that. Thank you for doing that, because my husband and I, over the years, have done our own marital therapy. I'm one of those that I drag my husband to therapy when I think we need a recharge. And he's so cute. He'll say, we need something to work on. And I said, yeah. And we'll get in the car driving. He goes, now, what do we have to work on today? And I said, we'll wait till we get there because I'm sure you'll figure it out. But we went to this one therapist one time who did a modality of therapy called emotional freedom technique. And it was a very interesting modality. And what it would be like is my husband and I have an argument. So we go to therapy and the therapist says, okay, Jill, so tell us what's going on. What happened? So I'll say my side of the story. And my husband's supposed to just sit there and listen, not say a word. So I'll say the whole thing like in detail, and then takes 10 minutes, let's say, and he says, okay, now Larry, you tell exactly the story of how it happened. He'll tell it, it's like a totally different story. So then he takes us and he says, now frame by frame, let's play it back. Like start again with your story, Joe, and then take a break and look at that frame. And now let's take that frame. So it's called emotional freedom technique. And it sounds to me similarly that when you started this search to branch off, that you needed to take frames smaller. And he would say, break it down smaller. It's too big of a story. And so when a person walks in the door, I'm sure to see you, they're coming in with this massive story that they want to purge. They want to purge, vomit purge. And
Yep.
to get a person to slow it down and bring it into a very small frame, the editing frame of that video, and just start there, I think is so imperative. And it's very, very difficult to do. It takes, and again, with a man wanting to fix it with the whole frame, like I want to watch the whole movie.
That's right.
Tell you the ending before the credits come on. Am I right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
So now transition us now. So now you feel this God inspired, this higher power inspired time to move forward, and your business begins. And so tell us now on this journey of how it's gone with the counseling and how you've been able, or the coaching, I'll call it coaching, not counseling, and in how this, your business started. Let's go into that. So your business starts, and take us on that journey now.
Yeah, I'll say, I was talking to somebody or listening to somebody, and they said, the first 5 years, it's always, you start something, you take one step forward and 2 steps back, and 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And that's so true. And that, I think, is why, I can't remember the statistic, but it's like high 90% of why businesses fail, because people go out and they start out with that vision, right? And they're like, oh, like I want to go be this. And then as they maybe start to get into the micro, right, that frame by frame that you were talking about, it either becomes overwhelming. They have all these frames, but they don't know how to put the frames necessarily together. There's so many different frames in a business because you've got like marketing and selling and products and services and, all this stuff that you finances, all those different pieces. And it just becomes so overwhelming that a lot of times people just say, I'm done, right? I'm going to go back. I'm going to go do something, where it's limited scope, and then I can move forward. But I brought my curiosity because, again, I love to tinker. And so bringing that tinkering of what could it look like? Well, how can I make it better? And that whole philosophy I started just taking through, and it was like, okay, when I started thinking of like the name Man of Class actually is an acronym. I started thinking about what are some of the pillars in my life that I've been able to either help others with or that have helped myself. And so CLASS really stands for continuously learning, adaptability, supportive of those around them, and striving for success. CLASS. And so it was really through that I said there were points in my life that when I started thinking about making drastic shifts in either how I was showing up as an individual, how I was showing up for other people, how I enriched, right? The Girl Scout motto is always, leave it better than what you found it. My sister was a Girl Scout, so that the whole Girl Scout mentality was also brought into the household. And it was, how can I make things better? And so those were sort of the basic principles. And so I said, well, really, if those are the things, the essence, then why not build a company sort of around that? And so that's how Man of Class started to form. And then it was, okay, how can I start having these conversations? Again, as a business owner, people just want to go right out and just sell. And a lot of times they're trying to sell the product or service, but not necessarily the outcome. Right. And so when people think of like an easy example is ibuprofen, right? Most headaches originate because of dehydration, because we don't have enough water in our systems. Well, that would never sell. So ibuprofen doesn't say, if you want to fix a headache, just go drink water. They say, if you take this pill will take care of your headache. And everyone buys it, not because they love swallowing pills, because most people hate swallowing pills, but they take it because of the end in mind. I want to take this and erase my headache. I don't want the joint pain, the lower back pain, whatever it is. This pill is going to solve it. And so when I started to think about how can I pull those lessons in from different industries into what I can do for my clients, that inner work, having those conversations, being vulnerable, working through the limiting beliefs, all that is the pill itself. But nobody cares about that pill. They care about, what does it mean to me? And so if I walked in and said, hey, I can coach you and I can be all this great, wonderful thing, nobody was willing to sign up. But if I came to them and said, hey, if your marriage isn't working, I know what's going on. I know I can help you become the husband that you want to be and your wife wants you to be. If you're struggling being the leader, paradigms are shifting, and the leadership, how you led people that worked in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s isn't working in the 2000s. I know I can fix that. So what would it look like if I could take you from your leader to a leader that all of a sudden you were dreaming about, one that had a team that was working, that you didn't have to follow up every single step along the way in order to get things to work. You just had a team that was collectively moving in that direction, and go, oh my God. I mean, if that could, of course I would do that. Okay, I can help with that. Well, how do you do that? Don't worry about the how. Let's just start on that vision of where you want to be. And then frame by frame, just like you had said, frame by frame, we work through what is it that you're seeing? How is that maybe perceived from others? What are some of these pillars that we can pull into and really help to make some of those small micro adjustments so that you can be that leader, be that husband, be that partner, be the father that you are really looking to have in life.
That's great stuff. When I was in sales, outside sales, for 38 years. I started off first in radio advertising, then I went into shipping for 15 years, and then I actually was in technology sales for 15. And then I ended my career as a director of sales and a general manager at hotel properties. So vast amount of sales, but very, very blessed to be able to be trained at some of the best intensive sales trainings in the world, I believe. Especially when I was in technology. I was with Toshiba and Konica Minolta and Icon, and I mean, they put us through boot camps like you can't believe with sales skills. And I bring that up because there was one girl who I've stayed friends with all these years when I got into the shipping business, and she was about my third sales manager in air freight, truck freight. And I'm 66, she's probably 10 years younger than me. And one day she's on the phone and she's talking for prospective client, and I'm hearing her. And I sat down with her and I just said, Debbie, like, I just heard your conversation. It was amazing. Like, share it with me. And she's shared it. So what it was, Eric, you would love this. I'll talk off camera with you with it, because I do have the writings that I've used for every single class, every sales job I ever had thereafter, after she said it. And she said, Jill, you can't book an appointment with someone as a sales appointment. You have to do a needs assessment. If you're not assessing someone's needs, all you're doing is trying to push your philosophy, your business, your products down their throat. And how many times do you get a call on the phone where it's a telemarketer that wants to sell you something and you have no need for that, and they're bothering you? So what's the difference of you picking up the phone trying to book an appointment with a shipping manager, and he's like, I don't need you to come in. I got my own shipping company. So she said, you have to assess their needs. So it was as simple as this, Eric. It was so simple. It was as simple as getting on the phone and just saying, this is Jill, Eric, blah, 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 with, man of class. And, I was wondering if I could just discuss with you what some of your needs might be in relationship to leadership development and any downfalls or things that you might be going through. And it's just like a simple one-liner. I'd like to discuss with you what your needs might be, and you find a pain point, whatever it is, if you had some pain point. And the person will be and say, and then I would say, I'd like to discuss what your needs might be. And then, the typical opening, having an open statement. I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Which day is better for you that I can sit down and do an assessment? And then, Thursday. And then I go, is morning or afternoon better? Well, morning. And I says, okay, is 9 o'clock or 11 preferred? And you go in. Well, this is the trick. You never, ever, ever then go into that appointment and start selling. Never, 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 never. You go in with 10, 15 points of asking needs assessment questions. And you really sit there. I mean, one of the things that I did in technology, I'd go in and do a needs assessment of people's environment for their technology. And this is when multifunctional copiers were just hitting the streets. And I'd walk in and I'd say, I'd really like to assess your needs and what your organization does. Can we do a walkthrough of your company? And you can walk me through the departments and show me what the workflow looks like. And then, assess it with me. Tell me where your pain points are. By the time we sat down, I had all the pain points written down. And then I would end my conversation with, as your needs arise, I'd like to partner with you if need be and see if I can solve some of those needs. And so I'd like to keep in touch with you in the next 2 to 3 months. And if something develops before then, please reach out to me and let me see if we can solve some of these problems together. And they'd be like, what was that? Like someone just came in and they really wanted to know what I needed. Like you wanted to know. And I mean, you can go on my LinkedIn account. I've got like 35 testimonials, and managers would say, I felt like you were part of our team. Like I felt like you worked for our company and you weren't an outside sales rep. Because that whole approach, Eric, when you're approaching someone and a man of class that has needs, and they don't know they have needs, like they don't even know they have a need. People just have to learn to start to listen to what people's needs are, because it makes a huge difference than just going in and saying, I'm going to be a life coach and I'm going to solve all the world problems. And I'm like, I don't need another life coach.
Exactly.
I don't need another life coach. I got 1 million of them where I work.
Yep.
Right.
And that's very true. That was what I found early on, which was, I'm a life coach. Everyone's like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, great. Wonderful. I've heard of them before. Okay. What are you, like Tony Robbins or something? Right. And it was, I don't have anything that I need help with. Right. And exactly to that point, many times people don't realize the needs that they actually have. And it's not through just having that dialogue, having that conversation of just like, what is it that you're struggling in your life with right now? Well, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z, right? That's a need. Mm-hmm. That's a pain point. If that was to be taken care of, how much better would your life be?
And even breaking it down smaller, Eric, where instead of saying, where do you have pain points in your life, to even say, have you ever experienced pain points in your life? Because even taking it smaller to the frame before, because a lot of times if you say to them, what are your pain points? I don't have any pain points. They're going to be defensive. The first thought is, me? I got my shit all together. And so, exactly. I think you got to get, it's so imperative to get smaller, because, it's like, have you ever struggled with anything in your life, being a leader or at home with your family? Like, is there any pains that you've ever experienced in your life that you just wish that you had the magic pill that could say, gosh, I wish I could figure this one out, or I wish I had someone I could talk to about this. So even breaking it down small, especially you're in a scenario, men are very difficult to get to this pain point stuff with. Women move a lot quicker. Mm-hmm. But a man takes a lot of time. So I give you credit. It's like you got to go real slow. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. No, you are. Because again, right, if there's a pain point, then it's a point of weakness. Mm-hmm. And we were raised, right, to say like don't show weakness, because it's just, you need to be the man of the household, you need to be the leader, you need to be this and be bulletproof and whatever else that people had told you growing up. Mm-hmm. And so you're exactly right. Whenever it's a facing in of something's not as good as what it could be, that realization is more or less saying that there's some holes in my armor.
Yeah.
And men don't really want to admit to that. They want to say, I'm just Superman all the time.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Getting even micro, the micro, going that mini frame by mini frame of just, have you experienced this?
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Okay. Have you ever experienced the feeling of anger? Right. Mm-hmm. You could even start even more, fractional than that and say, yeah, I get angry, but everybody gets angry. Mm-hmm. And kind of start that way.
Yeah, definitely. So, transitioning here a little bit. I'm a major Braveheart workshops are we have a couple. We have like three different taglines: renew, restore, reconnect, and community. But we have another tagline which is connect, dream, and getaway experiences. So, with connection, and you're connecting the dots here with men. If I were to ask you, when you can freely travel again, what would a getaway experience look like for you? Would it be a getaway experience with your wife? I don't know, do you have children, Eric? I didn't ask you to, with the kids, the family, or would you at this point say, you know what, I've been confined with them for 4 months. I've had enough of them. Would your getaway experience be a getaway experience with your men of class men and do some type of a workshop or a retreat?
It's interesting because I really looked at a getaway would really have both parts.
Okay.
Because I think having, initially when I started thinking about sort of like a man of class retreat and really what that would look like, very few times I could see where the man would be like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing, go to the beach and have like a nice like resort type thing. I'll see you later. Bye. So it would be easier, right? As if you said, bring the spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring, if you've got young kids, maybe figure out something like that, but bring that whole experience and have times where, sort of a couple's situation, because like you had said, there's a lot of conflict being cooped up, with your significant other. For us, it's been fantastic. We've actually grown so much closer as part of this, but I also know the opposite is true. There are people that are just like, I got to get out. I got to go drive around the block. I wake up right early in the morning and just sit outside or something. So sort of having that time where it would be a combined, type of event, and then have sort of a breakaway where, there'd be a spa location. So, women can go and just sort of get their R&R, and then we can kind of work one-on-one or, work within the group within the men. So that's kind of that ideal.
Well, we love my Montana retreat I'm going to next week. I'm going to
nice.
a dude ranch in Montana outside of Billings with 21 horses and 3 arenas. And
Nice.
The lady who owns it, her and her husband, she's trained in Og Mandino's Habit Finder, where she sends the Habit Finder to all of the attendees pre them coming, and they fill out the Habit Finder. It takes about 20 minutes, and it determines, are you on a line, a linear line, are you more of a perfectionist or procrastinator? Are you more of someone who releases stress or carries stress? And it has all these different questions. You answer them, and it shows you where you're in line or out of balance or which direction. And then she counsels you, she's a life coach too. She'll coach with you for about an hour before the event to determine where your habits need some fine tuning. And so when you arrive, she will select her horses of choice to work with you, who can help. The horses help to empower you to get you in alignment. It's really cool. Because horses are the one animal that really are intuitive and can tell what you're needing in your life. So it would be a really cool one. We'll have to talk about maybe doing. But so she had a cool idea. I loved her idea. So she said, Jill, we do retreats here all the time. So she goes, we can do an event where the women stay inside the house and the men camp outside with the tents. Bring their manliness outside in the mountains with the stars, we can do axe throwing, and campfires. So I thought it was kind of cool because her ranch home is 4 big bedrooms, and each bedroom has like 3 to 4 beds. So it's not the ideal for couples per se, because then you'd only be able to have 4 couples. But it's enough that you could put like 10, 12 women in the house and then set out the tents outside for the men. And at that aspect, if you have the type of children who really want to camp out with daddy, you can do the outdoors and then do the bonfires and do the empowerment stuff. But anyway, it sounded really cool. So I'll let you know when I get back from Montana, because we're getting our first, pandemic retreat on the books that sold out, and people are saying, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go to Montana and breathe in some fresh air and then, it's a house with four bedrooms. We'll be fine. And we only have 5 people going plus my husband and I, so it should be totally fine. But I'm really looking forward to it. So the other question is, if someone said to you today, you had to eliminate all your apps on your cell phone, but 2, what are your must-have apps? 2 apps. You get 2 only.
Ooh, that I don't think I've ever been asked that question, and I love it. I'd say probably the messaging app. Probably the messaging app and Safari. Because then I'd still be able to get any information of the questions, and then the messaging, it still allows me to, messaging, I can do the voice, I can do texting, whatever that might be.
Okay. Perfect. So, and what's one fun fact about Eric?
When you were actually talking about horses, I grew up on a farm with horses, and so I rode. So a fun fact is, actually, I did barrel racing. My sister, rode dressage, and I tried dressage, but was more into the Western feel, and started actually doing gaming. So that's a fun fact that not a lot of people actually know.
Well, then you might really like the Montana Ranch, because she does barrel races there all the time. So
oh, nice.
You love it. She's got like 500 acres and 3 huge arenas.
Oh, wow.
So
that's gotta be beautiful.
You might really love it. So I'll do some videos, and we'll talk about doing your man of class and a retreat there, and plan that one for 2021 for sure. I have another great getaway that you'll love too, is for the men of class, and the women would love this one, of course, is my business is one that I love getaway experiences to unique venues. I am not a getaway girl who wants to go to a 5-star resort and have a million people there and a lot of drinking and partying. I'm like, get me to a getaway experience that is unique and, just individualized. And so I research all the time venues all over the world. So I met an amazing man from Canada who built about 4 or 5 homes in Aruba. And so my husband and I, when we were dating, went to Aruba, and I fell in love with it. And we've been to lots of places, because his former job, we got to travel quite a bit and be able to go to 5-star resorts for free with his job. And so I said to him, we got to go back to Aruba. So in November, it was his birthday. I said, let's go. And so I called up the man who built these homes, and I said, we're coming to Aruba. We're going to stay at a hotel, just an inexpensive, but I'd like to come in and tour your properties. And he says, well, just come and stay at one of mine. Tell me what you were going to spend at a hotel, and I'll let you come and look at them. So we went. Oh my gosh, Eric.
Nice.
The one he took us to, it's 3 villas side by side. They're like townhomes. They're like 3 villas that are attached. They look identical. Each one has 6 bedrooms, 6 baths. And the bedrooms are 2 big queen beds you can pull apart. So if it's not a couple, or you can push them together to like a California king. They all have their own private bathrooms. So 6 bedrooms, 6 bath, living room, dining room, kitchen. And in the front of the house is this big outdoor with an enclosure over it of a big patio. So you could have 20 people there easily. And then you walk out to the back to a small, like a 6-person, maybe private swimming pool, and then down 3 steps onto a sandy, rocky beach. Just unbelievable. But they're all attached. So each villa has their own swimming pool. So you got 3 swimming pools. Each villa is on this cove that looks just like this. It looks exactly like this cove. And it looks this private. Like you see no one on the ocean, except an occasional Coast Guard will go by, and in the distance you might see a cruise ship. Other than that, you see nothing except the sea. And so you wake up in the morning and the sea breeze is coming into your bedroom. And I am not an early morning riser. But I tell you, when we were there, I leaped out of bed at 6:15 in the morning, leaped out of bed. My husband was sound asleep. And I put my bathing suit on. I got my Bose speaker, and I went out onto the sand, and my naturopath told me this. Put my feet in the sand and stare into the sun as it comes up, and you get all your vitamin D for the entire day by staring at the sun as it's rising when your feet are grounded in the sand. So I did this every single morning for a week, and I had put on my cell phone a morning meditation that's really cool. It's like breathe in joy, exhale hate, breathe in, love, exhale whatever. So it's always breathe in a positive, exhale. So I would turn that on as I was staring into the sun. And one morning, and because you raised in a farm, you'll enjoy it. One morning, as I'm doing this, I'm watching these seagulls coming in like this, the scattered brain, all coming in. And they're all like freaking out and landing on the pier, and their little feet are going like this. They look anxiety ridden. And one by one, as they're sitting on the fishing pier, and I'm watching this, they're listening to my Bose speaker. And one by one, Eric, they lined up in a perfect row and sat down and laid on the pier. It took about 10 minutes till the final. There were like 10 of them. And it was like they had to watch one and then one and then one and then one, and they all lay down and chilled. And they sat there in perfect silence for like 20 minutes during this meditation. It was amazing to watch. And then as soon as the meditation ended, they were like these chilled seagulls. You could tell, because it's always the flock's always the one in the front begins. The first one begins slowly standing up, and they all slowly stood up. And then you saw the main one just soar into the sky, and they all took off in perfect unison, and their little feet were going like this. So it was just like the coolest thing. So I literally fell in love with this villa. And so if you do something, we'll talk about that. That might be a really good men of class thing, because there's so many different things you can do. And what's nice about Aruba is you can chill, and they've got the most amazing snorkeling and scuba diving, or in where the villa is located, which is 15 minutes or 20 minutes away from the main town with all the tourism. So for those that really still want nightlife, we can take them at night to the casinos and party. But if they want to chill, they can chill. And if they want to party, they can party. So
yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
And that's a heck of a testimonial for your meditation too, if you were able to knock out a whole
whole flock of seagulls.
Yeah.
They liked it. So I'm going to put your bio on the screen now for the audience, and this will be on the YouTube channel as well as all my Facebook pages, Eric. And so people will be able to find you. Men, take courage and do a needs assessment with Eric, and open up and be authentic, and let Eric know if you have some needs that you'd like to fine tune, and reach out to him and see what this men of class is. It could change your life. It sounds like it's a powerful tool to utilize, and men for sure, especially in these troubling times right now. And I am not a women's libber, so I'm one of those that have authentic love for men and women. So I'm just like, men, I'm behind you. Like, go for this. Go for this. So thanks everyone for joining us. And before we jump off, if any of you are leaders that would love to share your story like Eric did today, please go to my website, which is braveheartworkshops.com, and fill out the contact form. Reach out to me and we'll schedule a time that works best for us. And audience, you're amazing that you're tuning in and learning about Eric this evening, but we want you to know we haven't forgotten about you, and we gather every Wednesday night for the Connection Gathering Tribe Zoom meetings. I will have them posted on this site, and at the end you'll hear the times. And to join us, though, you must go to my Facebook page, which you can find on my website, the Zoom Connection Facebook page, and you must register in order to get the secure password. So if you can join us on Wednesday night, audience, jump on. And many times when our leaders are available, they jump on too, and you get to connect with them. So Eric, any Wednesday night that you're not too tired and you want to jump in, we had 3 guys this past week, which was amazing. We usually have just women, and 3 men showed up this week. And we did mind mapping. This week we did a thing called mind mapping. It was really fun. And the week before we played Family Feud. So we always have different things each week. So
nice.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. So everyone, you have a wonderful day. And Eric, keep up the good work and help these men. We need strong leaders and strong men.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Take care of everybody.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks for joining us on The Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called The Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.